Welcome to this short video segment on accessibility. My name is Yuanru Tan, a learning experience designer for accessibility at the University of Michigan Center for Academic Innovation. Today I'm here with my two guests who have been collaborating with the center in the creation of educational resources to engage global learners as well as educators who care deeply about accessibility. So first of all, I will have you introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Colleen Van Lent. I'm a lecturer 4 here at the University of Michigan School of Information, and I teach primarily introductory web design and also programming.
So my name's Charles Severance. I'm a clinical professor here at the School of Information, and Colleen and I have been both teaching technically oriented classes for almost a decade now here at the School of Information.
Yeah. So today, the three of us would like to share with you our understanding of accessibility in education and our experience so far. So first, I have a question about when did you first start becoming aware of the need to think about accessibility intentionally in your teaching?
Well, as I said, I've been teaching web design for quite a few years now. And when I first took over the course, I think even from you potentially, I had a speaker come in once every semester to talk about accessibility. Mm-hmm. He was from the University of Michigan Office of Institutional Equity, and he primarily came in to talk about the legal ramifications of making sure your things were accessible. So I started thinking about that, but then we also started touching on the moral obligations, the business obligations, and it really became obvious to me that having one lecture wasn't enough. So we really kind of morphed it to where accessibility became ingrained into what I was teaching. And as I thought about it more and more, I realized I needed to ingrain it into the way I teach as well.
So for me, I learned about accessibility in 2007 when we founded the Sakai project, which is an open source learning management system. And I was just a software developer. And all of a sudden, we were producing software for the world, and people were really serious about accessibility. And I was learning very quickly, and what we figured out really quickly was that accessibility is kind of different when you're dealing with a commercial product or a commercial thing versus learning. People can have choices, like they might choose to shop at a different store, for example, or some other experience. But when it comes to teaching and learning, we really are just simply blocking access, right? If they're at this university and we don't give them accessible content, they're not going to just switch to another university to take a math class. And the other thing that we sort of learned quickly and committed to quickly was it's way more than the legal. It's too easy to think of this as a legal requirement, and instead we thought of this as how could we build software that would bring joy to people who had special needs with respect to this. And so we thought of it more as a user experience problem than a regulation and compliance problem.
Yeah. So for me, I remember in 2016, I attended a webinar hosted by Dr. Bursteller from University of Washington. So from that webinar, it's my first time heard about invisible disabilities. And that is the moment I realized how many assumptions I have made about accessibility before. And as someone have an education background, I realized there are so many things I can do from the learning design perspective to help people who have accessibility needs in the education experience. So that's also why accessibility has been a very important topic for me. So I'm curious about, like, from the moment you realized accessibility is very important and to now, how the role of accessibility played in your teaching and why accessibility is so important for you to consider.
So for me, the accessibility, it's always an ongoing idea. And so I think when a lot of people first learn about accessibility, the first thing they think of is for the blind. You know, can my material be read by screen readers? That's a big one. And so it was really something that I've been playing with for years now. You know, what can I do to make things better? And what I discovered is when you first start thinking about accessibility, it's paralyzing because you realize there's no way you can do everything perfectly. So I started kind of small and was like, all right, what kind of things do I want to do? And it wasn't all technical. I've learned to speak more slowly, which has made my mother incredibly happy. But also things like I've discovered speaking more slowly creates better captions, which not only helps people who maybe can't hear, but also for some of my students where English isn't their first language. So the thing that I've really noticed about accessibility is every small thing I do with maybe one particular demographic in mind, it always ripples. So my latest thing that I've been working on is my slides, and suddenly realizing things like, why was I putting so many really informative pictures in my slides? Like, why wasn't I just putting in the code? Why was I taking screenshots? And so going back, my biggest lesson in accessibility is I wish I had learned to do it right the first time. It's really small, tiny things that it's now taken me forever to redo. So my goal has been to kind of make it that if I have 500 students a year, maybe somewhere between 400 and 500 students a year, if I can send them out so that they know what accessibility is, and we just get the idea that it's important out there, even if people don't have the technical skills, it's still something that's in the back of your mind. Before I publish something, before I create something, have I thought about all the different people who might use it?
So for me, there's been in my teaching and accessibility, there's been a couple of different phases. So my first phase was as a software creator, not as a teacher, and trying to build software for an audience that I didn't see and didn't know and rarely met. Then as a teacher on campus, most of the time you didn't have to worry about it, right? And then all of a sudden you would find out that in a particular semester you've got a particular student with a particular disability, and then we have to sort of swing into action and do some kind of adaptation, whether it's for a deaf student or a blind student. And I thought that was really cool. Every time I remember Eugene, who was deaf, and I'm like, okay, now what is the cool technology that we can do, and how is having this deaf student in my class going to change how I teach, and how I can make sure that we don't just meet the minimums, but we enjoy it. There's got to be joy in it all too, right? And then that student graduates, and I don't have any more deaf students, and then I get a blind student. I'm like, oh, great! Here's a blind student, or a hard of hearing student, and then captions, and so my on-campus teaching was a series of moments where a particular student sort of drove me to learn new things. The second phase of my thoughts on accessibility in teaching was when I began to teach really large-scale MOOCs with hundreds of thousands to millions of students. And what's cool about that is in 100,000 students, you're going to get a lot of different disabilities. And what's extra cool is they're often very good at advocating. And I find that because I make it clear that I'm open to suggestions for improvement, that students will send me email. From 100,000 students, they'll send me email. And this gets to sort of what Colleen was talking about the paralysis. And they will send me these long, wonderfully thought out emails about how I could improve. And I'm like, I can improve. And I'm like, oh, okay, now what do I do? And I got to build new software, and I can't use screen capture anymore, and I need to build a whole new screen capture technology. And
right, you can't, all those times you've annotated your slides live in your video, you're like, oh, I thought I was being interesting, and I was really being exclusive. Exactly.
and so it makes it so that I find new challenges all the time, and find challenging things. And so what then the most recent phase is that the MOOCs give me more challenges and get me exposed to more students with different kinds of disabilities, and allow me to have a really good conversation with those students. And it's the individual student conversations, or their parents sometimes, that really teach me. And now what I'm doing is I'm bringing it, like Colleen, back into my on-campus classroom. And I don't need to have handicapped students in my class anymore to be like, how can I make this be more accessible? How can I do this slide? And like Colleen, I look at every diagram now and I'm like, hey diagram, do you belong in this course or not? Or should I just use narrative? And so I really, you really find that you need to go with more narrative and more writing and more that, because the narrative is accessible to far more people, whether it's dictated or in a closed caption, narration for abstract concepts. And we're computer scientists. And computer scientists love pictures. I mean, we grew up on pictures, we learned from pictures, we teach using pictures, and so the challenge now is no matter who I have in my class, whether I have a student with special needs or not, I am going to think about how to describe what it is, the ideas that I'm trying to describe in a way that's accessible, because as Colleen said, it benefits everybody. It really benefits all learners.
And just to kind of swing back to what you said earlier is, I've been working more with diverse groups and, students don't want to be that aha moment. They don't want to be the catalyst for your change. We really want to kind of make everything inclusive by design so that when they come in, they're ready to tell you all the things you need to change. They'd be like, oh, someone actually thought of that and I'm not causing an issue. So.
Right. The unfortunate reaction in that first phase is like, oh, you're deaf. This is awesome. I've never met a deaf person in my whole life. I can't wait to talk to a deaf person and learn how to teach a deaf person. How does that make the deaf person feel, right? I mean, that I should be ready, right? But unfortunately, we do need to have some of those aha moments. But now we're trying to anticipate the aha moments, and when they show up, we're ready.